I get into this, let me congratulate you on becoming president. I know the neighbors, the residents association is in good hands, steady hands with you, and I look forward to, as I think I said on an email, if there's anything I can do to be helpful. As always, you know, I'm trying to be as available as possible, so please do not hesitate to reach out. And yes, this wasn't from the election. I didn't gain this on Tuesday. I actually popped my bicep tendon on my left arm working out foolishly. I think I'm still 28. And unfortunately, I had that surgery on Monday, so I'll be in this for a little while. It's a little bit painful, but you know, I'm getting through it. And I thank you all for everyone that's been seeing me. I appreciate the well wishes and whatnot. And I also just want to thank you. I know election day was Tuesday. I appreciate all your support. You know, I'm happy and happy to be reelected. Happy to serve you once again for the next 2 years in the House of Representatives. I know the election was an interesting one at the top of the ticket, but you know, I'm happy that you know, there was so many votes and so much confidence in myself and Senator Boncory. You know, we look forward to serving you, and you know what you're going to get with me over the next 2 years, and that's someone who works hard for you. We may not agree all 100% of the time. Life would be boring if that was certainly the case. But you know that I'm available, accessible, you know, for any issue that comes up that is important to you, whether it's at these meetings or, you know, seeing me in the street or at the State House. I try to be as accessible as possible, and I want to make sure that you know that is never going to change. And I hope that you know, you feel comfortable. You know, if anything comes up that you please see me or see Patrick Lyons, you know, my legislative aide, if there's anything we can be helpful with. I wanted to just come by real quick and touch upon 3 issues that we've been working on, that I just that I wanted to give you somewhat of an update on. I know some of them are on your agenda, but I wanted to give you a little perspective from what we've been doing. The first is the nursing home. At last blush, we had a hearing at the City Council that Sal Mattina hosted related to the land disposition agreement that the BRA, or the BPDA, currently holds on that land, and we had a hearing. I think a lot of you attended. It was very successful. I think we stated our case on why that land should stay as a nursing home. The BRA has backed us up and said that they will you know, continue to want to keep it as a nursing home. And after that meeting, partners' tone really changed. They suddenly became more looking to work with us and work with the community and trying to find some end game for them. They don't want to stay there. They personally don't want to stay there anymore. But I think they've come to the realization that this is not going to change as a nursing home. And so immediately following that meeting, they immediately opened up the books to other facilities, other providers, asking them if reaching out to them, seeing if they wanted to take over the nursing home. I think they ended up with like something along the lines of 11 or 12 providers that originally were interested. I think they're down to somewhere of 4 that have actually made proposals on taking over the land and taking over the beds and whatnot. I think that's a you know, great step in the right direction from where we were back in, you know, late May, early June when this was first discussed. They also at myself, Councilor Mattina, Senator Boncory's request, they also pulled back their application for the Department of Public Health on the transfer of the facility to Brighton. They were going forward with that. As you know, as if you recall, not only was it the North End facility that they were transferring, or you know, virtually closing, but it was also a West Roxbury facility. They have decided to hold off, I believe, until, you know, they said till the end of November. I even think if they get closer in terms of an agreement with another provider, I think they'll hold off until that whole thing gets settled. They also, I checked in with them earlier today. They also said that they will be coming back to the neighborhood. I don't know, you know, what group or what form yet, but they will be coming back to the neighborhood to provide some updates on where things are and what they are currently, where it currently stands. So, you know, I thank you all for working on this. There's some members in this room that were part of of a steering committee that has been, working on this extensively in different forms. And, we're in a much, like I keep saying, we're in a much better place now than we were at the beginning of this process. We're not over the goal line yet. We're certainly have a little ways to go, but I think that, the fact that Partners is now saying they want to keep this a nursing home, they're not going to run it. They're going to give it to someone. They're going to sell it to someone else. It is a business. They're going to sell it for some amount of money. I know that doesn't sit well with some people in terms of how they got the property originally, but it is a business. They are going to have negotiations in somewhat related to that property, and hopefully there's a good ending related to that. So if there's any questions on that, I'm happy to take some of those, and then we can go on to the next bit.
Well, to be fair, I guess is following. They have put a lot of money into the facility over the many years that they've had it. So yeah, maybe they bought the property for a year, but other monies for $1, but other monies have gone into it. It seems to me that given that there's 4 actual bidders now that want to operate that facility as a nursing home, that it will happen. I'm concerned about the transition. Does it still mean that the current patients are going to have to move out? Or can they stay, and can the next provider take over, in a transition?
I think that's the hope. I don't want to say anything is a guarantee, because until it actually happens, it's not a done deal. But I think that is the hope. I think Partners, or Spalding, realizes that that's the hope. So I think that they know that that's very important to the community, and I think when they do come back to address it, I think that'll be a fair question to put on them, and to make sure that they give a fair, a respectable and fair answer at the time. I don't want to speak for them in relation to what those negotiations are. I think the fact that they told me that amount of people is information that I think I appreciated them sharing that. But I think they're well aware that is important, keeping the people there. That has been stressed by everybody that's been involved in this conversation, and I think it will continue to be. So. Yeah.
I could just add a couple of things. They have had interviews, or at least one company that I'm aware of, and I'd rather not mention names, but they were told that a decision would be made within 2 weeks, which is very.
Which was just this week? Or?
Yeah. Maybe I think it was last Friday.
Okay. Yeah, they held off on DPH's application. They said till November 30th. That's coming up in 20 days. So it makes sense that the decision would be coming sooner rather than later. But they did make it very clear they would, before anything's finalized, that they would come to the community and address where they see it going now, as opposed to where they were. The second piece I wanted to talk about was short-term rentals and Airbnb. And I know that's something you guys, if you haven't already discussed it, I know it's something you guys have discussed. We are going to be filing something again. As many remember, we filed something 2 years ago on this. The bill we filed 2 years ago was kind of a conversation starter on this issue, because at the time, I think we were all learning about it and trying to figure out what direction it was taking. I think we have a little more understanding of the issue. I think the issue has matured itself. There's been certain things that I think we've realized or seen over the last couple of years that we didn't know back in 2014, late 2014, when we were originally discussing this. And so we will be filing another piece of legislation. It's going to be a statewide piece of legislation. There's going to be some things in there that I'm sure that are going to be very similar to what we filed in early 2015, but there might be some differences based off of how we see the issue heading, with a little more understanding. I know Sal is hosting a community council hearing, in the coming weeks. I don't know what the date of that is yet, unless someone knows better than I. But I know he's adamant about this on the city level. You have myself on the state level. I think when we filed it, the thing I've been saying is, I think when we filed it originally, early 2015, I don't think many of my colleagues and many people had an understanding of what this was, of what effects this was having on communities, because I think it was still, really a really downtown neighborhood, North End, downtown neighborhoods issue, and that's why I was kind of quicker to it than most people in the House or in the Senate. I think that's certainly changed. I think there is a dialogue that's being had amongst my colleagues about what this means, and there are effects being taken place across the Commonwealth. We had a bill last session that was attached to an economic development package that would have dealt with the tax issue. It happened on the Senate side. It got into conference committee. It didn't happen because at the end of the day, I didn't feel comfortable, me personally, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but my personal reason why I wasn't comfortable moving forward with the tax position is because I knew how much the regulation piece was important, if not more important than the tax issue. The tax issue is certainly important, but the regulation piece is to me, the thing that changes the dynamics in our neighborhood related to this. And I knew once the tax issue got solved, it was going to be very hard to handle the regulation piece after the fact. So, we put up a front against just doing the tax piece. That's why it didn't happen this last session. I think now we're in a much better place on this issue to tackle it, on both sides. And I'm looking forward to some dialogue. If there's any pieces of information that you think are important or pertinent to this, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm taking meetings and having discussions about where to go with this. Me and Cheryl had a nice conversation at the Friends of Christopher Columbus Gala. I know you have a lot of history in working in this. So I welcome that kind of discussion because I want to try to build the best piece of legislation we possibly can for this issue. It's a complicated issue, but as many of you know, I like taking on complicated stuff. So I don't think this is something that's in a much better place, but something that we have to continue to work on. And I welcome the feedback on that. I don't know if you have any questions or comments on that, David?
Yeah, we're not the only state and only city dealing with this, and some of the cities have looked into this even further, and we're a little bit behind on the curve compared to some other cities. And I understand that there's many different tools that are available, both at the state level and at the city level, to try to control what is happening. And to me, the number one goal is to preserve our housing stock. That much of our housing stock is now being used as hotel spaces. And so I'm wondering, I get two questions, I guess. One is, isn't it potentially different for Boston than it might be for the state as a whole? So it may not be enough just to have state regulations, but we also need city ordinances, possibly rezoning, occupancy permit changes, that kind of stuff, because the situation may be unique in the larger cities, especially Boston, because it's such a tourist place too. And then the second question is, how much information have you been able to get, has the legislature been able to get about what's going on in other cities?
So I'll tackle your second part first and say, yes, we've been analyzing this across the country. Some cities, there is a wide range of attack modes on this, from large cities to small cities to statewide pieces of legislation. And I don't know where we're going to land. I don't want to say like there's one particular city that sums it up or has done it best, because I think there are some places that do some things really well, and then I think there's some places that do other things really well. And so we're trying to look at what would be the best model to go off of, or it might be a hybrid of some of those other things. But yes, there are some fascinating ways to tackle this. Chicago just took on some of this in the past 3 or 4 months. That's an interesting way that they've done it. Santa Monica, different than just what LA has done, is unique. But there's a whole host of different places, and New York, I know, as we know, that they signed a bill that basically outlawed it. There's currently in lawsuits right now, outlawed basically not living in your facility and renting it out, and I think there are lawsuits currently dealing with that right now, and that's going to take up some time in the courts, and I don't know what the end game is going to be there. But yeah, that's certainly the case. I'm sorry, in your first question.
Well, just that it affects our city possibly very differently than it affects the state as a whole.
Certainly. So I think whatever, and we did this in the original bill that we filed, but we'll certainly do this again. We're gonna create a baseline or framework. and I think it's going to be on other cities and towns. We're going to give the municipality some options to work on this differently, because like we said originally, what's good for the Cape isn't necessarily good for Boston and vice versa. And we're very cognizant of that. I don't think I don't know how far the city wants to go. I mean, we haven't really had that full dialogue yet. But I think and I don't think they know where they want to go, because I think this council hearing will kind of take shape there a little bit. And I think we're going to be paying attention to how far they want to go based off of what we want to do. But I think we're going to have to give flexibility in some. I think there are going to be some key points that are going to be important, and transparency is one of them that I focus on in the sense that knowing that if you have a building and your tenant wants to rent it out on Airbnb, then if you're okay with it, then that's fine. But you should know about that. You as a building owner should be very well aware that your tenant is doing this. Your neighbors should be aware that you're.
So long as it's the tenant's actual home.
Right, that's a totally different thing. But you're right. But I'm saying, if you own a building in the North End and your tenant is doing this, you should have an understanding. If you live in a condo building, and your condo association should have an awareness that this, and the only way right now, there's no way of knowing that by the law right now. The only way you can figure that out is either you go on the website and check out the then find your building on there, which I have done actually, because 36 Fleet Street, there is a unit in there that's being Airbnb, or B, you chase down the people with the rollers. With the rolling suitcases, and I don't think that's a good way of policing the issue either. So there needs to be some type of transparency, whether it is on the city or the state level, or both, potentially both. I think that is going to be that's just an example of a key that we'll be dealing with, from a statewide level, regardless of how the city moves forward.
But I assume the state can only do so much, and that the city will also have to have a role.
Yeah, the city's certainly going to have to have a role in determining certain things. The state, in terms of the taxes, is that's the only way it's going to be laid out is through the state. Then we might give the municipalities more options in terms of how they want to handle it. But at least the option of taxing is certainly going to have to come from us.
When do you think you're going to file?
So filing, our legislative session begins in January. I think the first 2 weeks of January are when we can file bills. So that's when I'll be filing.
So it's pretty well done, or it's pretty
No, it's. I mean, there's pieces of it that are work, but we're continuing to have conversations and meetings, and so nothing is finalized until we file it. And even when we file the bill, as it goes through the process, there might be changes along the way that we're certainly over to. When we filed it 2 years ago, again, I say we just did it to get things started, get conversation moving. I think now we have some better understanding, so it will be a little more finalized, a little more mature in terms of what it was before. But certainly, we'll be open to suggestions.
Does the city or the state right now have any idea of how widespread this short-term rental phenomenon is? Is there any sort of registration that's being required right now of people that are engaging in this activity? No.
There is nothing that is, everything these people are doing, everything that's going on right now related to this is completely 100% legal, and there's no stopping it.
Well, it's not 100% legal because in many...
Unless you're breaking the lease, yeah.
Exactly. In many standard leases or your condo documents, it's either illegal to sublet, or you have to notify the owner of a sublessor agreement. And I'm sure most of these aren't. Right.
But that's it's not on the that's not I'm saying in the general laws. I'm saying there's nothing that clarifies that. Anything else on Airbnb? Okay, the last piece is a piece of legislation that I just wanted to let you guys be aware of as moving forward. It's something I filed as a late file at the end of session that hasn't been passed yet, but I want to make sure that you are aware of what we're doing, so this way questions as we go forward can be answered. There is a piece of property that has been up for discussion for quite some time in front of Mother Anna's. It's that it's been used by Mother Anna's for outdoor seating. Basically, it's everything from the doorstep of Mother Anna's all the way to wrapped around the tunnel, all the way to the statue of the Tony DeMarco's. My street, I should know. Tony DeMarco statue. That piece of property has been vacant outside of this usage for the past 12 years since the Big Dig finished. It was used as staging for the Big Dig. As many of you know from that were living there, it was a fluid situation that was taking place on that piece of property. Earlier this year in January, MassDOT put out an RFP for the property. They set a price tag that many deemed to be unreasonable. I think it was like 1.65 million was the number. Don't quote me on that, but I can get you the exact number, but I believe it was somewhere in that vicinity. No one bid on the property. It went through the whole RFP process, and not one single person bid on the property. That frustrated me greatly because of the fact that this property has been vacant for so long. I also feel that, you know, the folks that own the Mother Annis building were the ones that went through, you know, the tremendous ordeals of the Big Dig. And so I tried to file something to try to move the piece of property along. And it hasn't passed yet, but it's something I want you to be aware of. It is a bill that will open up an exclusivity dialogue for 6 months between MassDOT and the owners of the Mother Annis property on the property itself. It is not giving them the property. Let me make that very clear. It is not giving them the property. It is just giving them a 6-month exclusivity of negotiations. I think it is the fairest thing to do at this point, since no one has bid on this. Since no one has bid on this property through the RFP process, and the ordeal that Mother Annis had to go through. You know, they are one of the staples of the neighborhood. They went through all that construction right on their doorstep for 16 years and survived. And you know, I think whatever they want to do with the building, I will certainly go through an Article 80 and a discussion process. You know, just like it would if anybody else had bid on it or had received it. But I think it is the fairest thing to do, dealing the circumstances of the Big Dig and the Central Artery Tunnel project, is to just give them a 6-month window of exclusivity on negotiations. If they don't come to an agreement between MassDOT and Mother Annis, then the building goes back, then the property goes back out to, you know, regular RFP consumption. But my frustration has been with the fact that this hasn't moved. This is a gateway property to the north end. I think it is a very, you know, this cross street, you know, anything that really, you know, I would say 75% of the people that see the north end for the first time, this is what they come for. They come down Hanover Street, they come down Salem Street. These are the properties that they first see after the green light. And I think it's important that, you know, we get the ball moving on that and get it, you know, get it done, because it's been 12 years sitting vacant. I'm coming to you telling you this now because I didn't want anybody to be surprised or be taken aback by the fact that, you know, this thing, when it was done, you know, if it got passed and it was done, I didn't want anybody to say, hey, you know, where did this come from? That was my reasoning behind filing the bill. Again, it was a late file. I think it will be done before the end of the session, but I'm certainly happy to open up for questions or discussion on that property. Yeah.
If they have a 6-month opportunity window and they come up with a bid, who decides if that bid is fair?
MassDOT. So the owners of the property, MassDOT. So they have, I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. It's an exclusivity negotiation rights between MassDOT and the Mother Annis property owners. So it's not,
so there is an opportunity to ensure that this isn't a giveaway.
Yes, yes. And I think by the set of the RFP at the price that they originally put the RFP up at, I think, you know, assures you that MassDOT is not going to want to give this property away based off the fact that if they wanted to give it away, they would have been looking to do legislation like this originally. I think that their you know, budgets are tight. You know, MassDOT is no exception, especially. I think they're going to, you know, they're going to try to get as much money as they possibly can out of this. I just think that I want to get this ball moving and get it either done. So, yes.
I have a question that relates to that. You mentioned Cross Street. There's Amy Nails there and the fruit juice place where Ryan Meadows used to be. So I was in the nail shop and they were explaining that they had to be out by the end of December because a hotel was going there.
No, it's not a hotel.
Well, that's what. So what is going in that area with the ice cream shop and then Amy Nails and then the juicery and what used to be bread and butter? What is going there?
So there is the owners of the property, which bought it from Citizens Bank, who bought it from the Martinetti family. They came in front of us, the neighborhood groups, a couple of times over the past couple months. I know there was some angst about the look of the building, if I remember correctly from watching, I was in the meetings. But I think there is, did anybody else want to chime in exactly what was supposed to go there? I forget exactly.
All commercial.
It was all commercial, so it was different, but it wasn't a hotel. though,
No.
right? Yeah,
So
right.
that's what,
Yeah.
I'm
Hotel is across the street.
The hotel is across the street.
Oh, parcel 9. Yes.
Right, that- I didn't, they were talking about that it's supposed, the discussion in the building there was that it was going to be the very tall building and
No.
there was a lot
They're
of.
they're not altering the footprint at all, and they're not raising the height much more than it is currently.
The height is supposed to be 1.5 stories.
Right.
35.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
It's an ugly building, and it doesn't go with the north end.
It's very glass, right?
It's all glass.
Yeah.
But it's
All
all
glass.
retail?
Retail shops, yeah.
Not necessarily, there may be a restaurant, cafe or something in there.
Oh, I just think it was.
A question, let's say this bill works out and Mother Ann's purchases the property. The next step is they're not gonna pay, they pay $1.5 million and not try to develop. Do we know if Mother Ann's plans to resell the thing or develop that property, or if they do, into what?
I believe they're going to develop it. I think that their plans on what they want to develop it, I think I'd let them present that. I think that it's a,
Fair enough.
I would say that it is a more modest development from what I saw than what if someone else had purchased the property, let me put it that way. I think one of the challenges with that property is that it's right over the tunnel, so you can't go underneath. So you're building basically everything that would be a basement is on your first floor, and you're stuck at a certain height, obviously, you know, by the zoning of the north end. So you're stuck by a certain height, so it makes it very challenging to build. On top of the fact that it is a small footprint, and you're basically, you know, building it right in front of a restaurant. I think that those elements had a lot to do with why no one actually went forward and bid on it, and why I also think that giving them the opportunity to try to make good on the property is going to make the most sense for the long term of the property. So,
When you say the owners of Mother Anna's, are they the owners of the restaurant only or the entire
the building, they own the Mother Anna's family owns the building, so it's both. Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions? I'm sorry. Any other?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Really, helps.
Like you said, the rumor going around is your colleagues caught you voting for Trump.
I'm a true blue Democrat, for better or for worse. You know?
On that note.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joanne.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, on the
Wait to
Airbnb,
say.
how do you regulate how much money they take in? That's an income, do they have to claim it in their income tax or business?
People that do it now currently have to claim it on their income tax, the hosts. But the online source, I mean, you would basically be paying a fee, a percentage, you know, a tax on every night you use on the site itself. And that would go to the company to pay directly to the Commonwealth or to the city or town.
No, but I mean now, people who are renting out their apartments.
Currently, there's no tax on it. You know,
There's no tax, but Airbnb provides you with a statement at the end of the year that I believe they file with the IRS.
Okay.
About how much money they
So it is
collected on your
regulated.
behalf.
in terms of the income tax.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of someone's being a host and paying income tax on it. Yes. Yeah. I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.